Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I'm Ron Luce, and I am joined by the one, the only. He completes the duo that is the Juice and Luce show, my buddy Juice. My friend, we get to talk about a Cubs winner today. That's always cool and tough, and it's always a pleasure jumping on the microphone with you, sir. But first, how are you doing on this fairly beautiful Wednesday night in the Chicagoland area?
Doing good, man. We just got off of our little show meeting, which was kind of fun. I love sitting and talking about the possibilities of this brand. And now we're going to talk about the possibilities of this Cubs team in the future, because a lot of good things happened today on the prospect front, as well as the ball club front. And there's a fun game that's going to go on tomorrow that's going to have a lot of home runs. And baseball is it's going to be fun, man. There's a lot of good happening after such a bad day yesterday. Get the Roquan news. I know the Southsiders were a little upset about, Tim Anderson. They should apologize. White Sox Twitter should apologize to that one guy who was standing in the airport and actually saw Tim Anderson and was really upset about that. And everybody came after him like, oh, that ain't Tim Anderson. Well, yeah, it was Tim Anderson. So sorry. That was my one.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. And two, as you know, fellow on Tappian. Is that kind of how we're going to do these now? I think I just made that up.
But I think you did just make that up, but I like it.
Buzz had another kid. So congratulations to him and Jamie. Beautiful little girl. As you know, he's been one of my best friends since 5th grade. And I can't wait to meet the little girl. Yes, he had 3 girls, and that just means that I have 3 boys. So thank you, Buzz, for all your sacrifice. And yeah, man. No, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a fun time. But I'm excited to talk about the Cubs today, man, because it's a fun game. For a while there, I thought about, are the Cubs going to be – is this going to be one of those times where, man, Justin Steele was awesome, and Nico Horner is elite, and the Cubs lose. And we talked about this, as it's kind of good, if the prospects, have their good days and then – the Cubs kind of lose. It kind of helps both because it's a lottery this year and you want the most chances you can to get, that top pick. So, yeah, man, excited about it. And they won, and that's good because either way, wins build ball clubs too. So Either way, the Cubs for the rest of the way are playing with, house money. So I enjoyed today's game and excited to talk about the preview for tomorrow. So I actually had today circled. I was like, I want to be on the show that previews the Field of Dreams game because I really, truly want to talk a little bit about, the movie, our kind of baseball life as well, how we got to the point we're at. And then, just preview the game. I think it's going to be secondary to watching all the cool things like we did last year. I don't think the game's going to be as fun as it was last year either. But with that said, the Cubs are in it, and I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And like you said, a good win today, too, to take some of that momentum into what is going to be quite the spectacle in Dyersville, Iowa, with the Field of Dreams game. Because, Juice, that, again, wins, like you said, build ball clubs. And that's exactly what happened today. Really good victory for the Cubbies against the Nats. First off, 2 series in a row. Cool and tough. Secondly, like you said, I think that's a great place to start because you mentioned it right out the gate, friend of the program. Justin Steele fucking shoved it today. He looked really good. And I know people are like, oh, but he gave up 8 hits. Yeah, but 6 of those 8 hits or 7 of those 8 hits were for weak dribblers that somehow just found places. They weren't good, hard hit balls. The only hard hit ball was the Meneses, because he's a menace, home run. That was really the only hard hit ball against Steele today. But 6 innings pitched, 8 hits, the 2 earned runs, just the 1 homer. But he did not walk a single soul, and he K'd 9. Things you like to fucking see. And Juice, I think what today's start, though, you mentioned, right, we always talk here about building for the future and guys going through adversity and, having to go through that growth as a baseball player. Rick Sutcliffe brought it up on the broadcast multiple times during Steele's start today that you could really tell he was fighting himself a little bit today. The command wasn't as sharp as he probably wanted it to be. but the stuff was still so nasty that he was able to get away with it. And that shows, I think, truly to the talent that is Justin Steele as a starting pitcher. But that also shows, right? Like, you're not always going to have your best stuff every day. Can you still get through a 6 innings quality start? Love to see it. And again, didn't walk a single soul. He almost K'd double digits again, coming off a 4. Again, the dude struck out 10 of the 14 outs in his last outing. And then this time around, he gets through 6 and still K's 9. Like, Justin Steele is putting together very impressive starts now. And today, again, struggled maybe a little bit with the command, but still got results. And that really helps. Like you've always said here, Juice, right? This helps these guys grow at the major league level.
I think there's a lot of things going on here. And I think if you kind of want to talk about what Justin Steele's, start was today, it's very John Lester-esque. It was, how many times did we watch Lester go out there, fight control, fight, himself, and still at the end of the day, when you looked up, it was 6 innings and a quality start and, within 8 to 9 Ks. And I thought, like, I was waiting for Suddy the whole day to go that extra step, like he reminds me of John Lester Day, but I don't know if he just didn't make the connection or, that just wasn't something on his mind, or maybe, Steele does do things a lot differently. I'm not saying that like his pitching style today was very, John Lester. It's not. They're not the same pitcher. But the battle, I love, what I love the most? Like the battle-tested like attitude of this kid. He's like the type of kid that wants to compete. I mean, the Cubs are 20 games under 500, and they're playing the Nationals, a team that just sold everything to San Diego for prospects to rebuild. And he's still going out there like a bulldog. Like, I am going to knock your teeth in, and I don't have my best stuff today, but I'm going to keep my ball club in it. And I know eventually, my ball club will come through once that they kind of got like into the bullpen at least a little bit and saw, the Gray a couple times over. That was when they finally were able to break out. But Justin Steele in his last 7 starts, 1.95 ERA in 37 innings pitched, 8 earned, and 45 Ks. That'll play. That'll absolutely play. And I think the second part of, trying to build on this, what I'm seeing from this kid, there's a couple things going on. I think he's starting to trust the fact that he doesn't have to be so perfect on the mound. He has the stuff, and he hides the ball so well that he doesn't have to be pinpoint accurate in all of his. I would love for him to hit every spot that Gomes is putting down, but not every pitcher does that. But trusting his stuff enough to get out there and know, hey man, like I can miss by a couple inches, but I'm good enough to get it by you. I know I am. And having that confidence, it's just been these last 2 starts where I felt like there's been a mantra on that mound that's shifted for him. And I know that you guys were slated to meet up with him to exchange some baseballs. It's almost like you guys were like Jersey after a game, like here, take my Cubs on tap jersey. You take my. I saw it in the back and forth on Twitter, and Justin, you're a huge friend of the show, and we appreciate everything. But yeah, man, like I just so badly want to ask him that question of like what's different, like what coming out of this All-Star break was it just good in your first season of getting a little rest, some time away from the ball club a little bit, resting your arm, getting those extra days off, or were you working on something and now you've honed that in and you feel like you're kind of arriving? And I think the learning curve for a starting pitcher is so long. I mean, let's face it, but the timeline that they have to pitch in the major leagues is in a lot of times, bountiful. I mean, they can pitch, guys can pitch a long time now, as long as they've gotten, the injuries out of the way. A lot of times they can pitch deep into their 40s, and still be effective. And I want to ask that question to him, but I also too, on the flip side, I don't want him to get comfortable either. I want to see more. It's almost like I feel like we're scratching the surface of his ability. And that's great for the Cubs because it solves a huge problem. Finding guys like that who are lefty and towards the front of the rotation and have that stuff and have that attitude, I think is something you could build a pitching staff around. You're talking about guys that like want to be competitive. And we always talk about this game within a game, having that out there with the starting pitchers of, hey, I'm going to try to one up the start from before me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Justin's getting that almost with himself. And I think Keegan as well, the whole season has been, sort of level like that, where I'm going to try to just keep, stringing together great starts, keep my ball club in it. And then once I'm able to, flip the switch and get in on a team where, we're fighting for playoff slots and we're fighting for, divisions, it'll be a new learning curve after that. It'll be, how do you pitch down the stretch in big games? And I think we're slowly watching a couple guys on this team graduate the learning curve, graduate from third grade to fourth grade, and then like getting to high school is like, let's see what we can do, getting to college, or a certain, you can equate it to, algebra or math or things like that. Like, I just feel like we're getting to the point where we should start expecting this from Justin Steele over and over and over again. And that's a great conversation. That's a great thing, I think, for us to sit and talk about. What's different? What is he doing, well? And what are our new expectations for Steele as they've changed over the course of the season?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you brought up so many incredible points, Juice. And to your point, right, like with Justin Steele and just like his demeanor on the mound, right? Like even Sutcliffe today, you mentioned hiding the ball, brought up Andy Pettit, who did something very similar and kind of his wind up over a course of his career. Very good pitcher, obviously, Andy Pettit was for a very long time. And I agree. I think you're starting to see that we are seeing development in guys like Justin Steele and Keegan Thompson this season. And I think that's exciting because for years and years and years, we would see guys come up and then they would become stagnant, right? Like they wouldn't necessarily get better or they wouldn't develop something that, they still kind of needed to develop at the next level. These guys are doing that, right? Steele's big thing was, I feel like we've kind of seen the best of both worlds with him this year where we know he can go deep into games. But it's like, can you have the nasty, right? The stuff where you're getting that 8 and 9 and 10 Ks per game, but still going 6 and maybe 7 innings, right? Because we've seen the 7 innings, but only maybe 3 Ks. And then we've also seen the 4 2/3, but he strikes out 10 of the 14 fucking outs that he gets. Like, we've seen that. Now I think we're starting. Today was kind of that start where we got a little bit of both. We got the 9 Ks, no walks, which – for a guy who didn't have his command today to not walk anybody is still really fucking good. So, like, that is incredible to see. And then he still gets through the 6 innings. And I think, David Ross touched on it very briefly in his press conference after the game. He said, it was good to see Justin battle through that 6th inning because you could tell he was getting tired. You could really tell he was starting to get a little frustrated with himself because he was missing right on that slider. It would sweep too far into the dirt. Hitters weren't taking it. He kind of see him turning around and having to kind of recollect himself a little bit, but he got through it and he managed to muscle through a quality start. And that is the type of learning curve and growth step that we want to see from these guys. And like you said, if you can develop lefties to be like Justin Steele is right now, that's a really good problem to have as a ball club because then, who's to say that Jordan Wicks doesn't come up and look very similar or better? DJ Hers is another lefty that's in the system. Like, they have these guys that are on the horizon. They're showing Justin Steele we use the analogy all the time, right? This prospect pool that the Cubs have been developing since guys like Kantrovitz and Hoyer and even once Hawkins has now come in, right? They've been developing this for a few years now. We're just getting this is the first course of these guys, the Keegans, the Justin Steeles, the Christopher Morels, who I don't think any of us thought was going to be in the first course, but son of a bitch, here he is. But there's guys coming. You talked about PCA having a really great day yesterday, had a home run and a double yesterday. I think he scored like 3 runs too on top of it. Had a really strong outing, right? All of these guys at every freaking level, we're seeing it game after game, day after day, are continuing to develop. They're cooking, right? They're cooking that next course that's going to come up to the big league level. But we're finally getting to see what this team has put in place now for years since like Dan Kantrovitz came into the organization. Because now it is no longer, well, we have Kyle Hendricks who we kind of developed and that's it. No. Developing arms is going to be, if the Cubs can develop arms at the level of guys like Justin Steele and Keegan Thompson, they are going to in turn become a pitching factory. And the only thing that pitching factories allow you to do is you constantly have great arms at your major league level, and then you can deal arms for talent in other areas that you maybe don't have. And obviously, I don't think that they're at the point where they're dealing those arms yet, because they want these guys to get to the major level, right? They want to establish that baseline first, that first wave, that first generation of these guys that they've truly developed. Justin Steele's a guy that they've truly developed. And I think today was an absolute testament to it, because you've seen the development, right? And he has the stuff, and they know that he can be a starter. Now, like you said, you're starting to see that psyche take over. And because he is a bulldog, he's got that kind of mentality. You see himself kind of like almost talking to himself through the game. We've seen the emotion from him on the mound. Like, this guy's going to be a lot of fucking fun. I agree, kind of that John Lester vibe in a way of like, he's that bulldog lefty that's going to go out there and just get the job done, whether he's got his best stuff or not. And today was just showing, hey, even when he doesn't have the command, his stuff is still good enough. I mean, fuck, there was one play or one pitch in particular where I forgot who he struck out, but Gomes was calling for, I think it was a slider low and inside. He missed, and it was high and up in the outside of the zone, but it caught the corner perfectly, and the guy got rung up looking. And it's like, that's just a testament to how good Justin's stuff is, for that pitch to be able to come from so far out wide and still catch the corner the way it did and just freeze the hitter in the batter's box. So I'm right there with you, man. Just a start that you really like to see in Justin's development today as well.
Yeah, and I think that the hardest part for us to sit here and talk about is the development and the process of developing pitching, because we have not seen it. So not only are you scratching the surface of, what are these guys going to be like in the future, but you're also developing a reputation around the league that you're able to do it. And I think once you're able to do that, you could also maybe fleece some teams that maybe view you as, man, well, the Cubs like this kid, he's got to be good
too.
Yeah. And you almost are able to want to kind of pull one quickly on a guy that maybe you don't believe in as much. Maybe there's a pitching prospect that maybe everybody in baseball thinks is great, and you've played it off like he is great. But realistically, he's got some problems, and there's some things that for a fact that even pitch lab and your player development can't fix. And you're able to go out and address a position in need, like you said. I just think that Cub fans in general, and we should watch very closely, because I think this is going to mirror what we see in the future in terms of the expectation of process, in terms of what is the length of when these guys start to get it. Because as we said, it's different than a hitter. This is totally different than a position player coming up, because pitching takes trial and error. It takes comfortability. It takes confidence. There's a lot of things that go into play for this that necessarily don't go into like factor in for a hitter, for a guy who is, in the lineup every day and seeing, success for a hitter, like we always talk about, is 30%.
Right.
That's not the same for a pitcher. Like, as a pitcher, you're expected in today's ball game to go out and mow people down because you have the 97-mile-an-hour fastball and the higher spin rate, breaking stuff like that. That is the expectation. So I think there's a lot more at play here when you have a starting pitcher, you have a pitcher in general, that we have to talk about and watch closely on Justin's development, because I think it's going to be it's going to play as the preview to how they handle these wicks, to how they handle the guys, certain, Luke Little, we've talked about, on this podcast as well. And, some of the guys that were Caleb Killian that came up and had their cup of coffee and now they're working on things. I think this is going to paint a picture of what Cub fans should expect on a timeline as well, too, for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a really good explanation about it too, Juice, because, it is really easy to get impatient, right, with prospects. You're like, oh, when is this guy coming, right? We see the talent. It's there. Like, I think there's people that are chomping at the bit to see Brennan Davis just play baseball this year, right? Like, it is very hard sometimes to again, kind of trust the process, right? Like, just understand that not everybody is MLB ready in 2 years. That's not realistic by any stretch of imagination. So I agree, right? Because Justin was a 2017 pick,
somewhere around there. I think so.
20. So
I don't want to quote it wrong, but
it took him a couple of years, right? It took him a while to get here because we really didn't see him until 2021. So it just, again, just kind of reiterating that process, right? Obviously, the no, minor league year in 2020 probably skewed that timeline a little bit. But even if you consider it, right, he was a 2017 pick, let's say, because I think that's what he was. 2018, 2019, okay, 2021, he's ready, right? So, like, it's still a 3-year process, ultimately, to get a guy like Justin Steele to be ready to be a bullpen arm, mind you, was what he originally came up and was on this team as. And then they had to stretch him back out.
2014 draft, buddy.
2014 draft. So there you go. And he was also, though, a high school arm, correct?
I believe so.
So
I didn't get that. Oh, yes. Yeah,
high school.
He was.
Yeah, yep. So there is that, and Fly the Dub jumping in the comments here right at the same time. You guys were perfectly in sync there. Yes, he was a 2014 pick. But again, okay, so there you go, right? He's drafted in 2014 out of high school. So you got 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. I think we would have seen him in 2020 if it wasn't for the no minor league season and rosters and all that. So let's just still call it, though. That's almost a 4-year process for a high school arm to be major league ready. Not all these guys are going to be ready. But I think that's why they like drafting guys like Cade Horton and Jordan Wicks, because they're college arms. They're a little further along. These guys might only take a year or two at the minor league level to be able to be ready. But again, it's just tiering, right? You tier your guys. Okay, we know you're going to take a lot longer, right? They really wanted Ferris in the second round, and they got him. We're not going to see Ferris for probably 4 years, right? But we're probably going to see Cade Horton in the next 2. So you start to tier guys off, and that's how you develop the pipeline, because then guys are coming at different times. Guys are ready to get paid, and you don't agree with that guy's price point. He's out the door. You replace him with somebody else. Hey, we do like this guy. We are going to keep him. Okay. But then now all of a sudden you see, okay, we're developing this guy. Maybe he's a trade chip because he's blocked, or maybe, he's a replacement now for somebody else. It's this constant chess game of moving pieces around in your organization developmentally over the course of numbers of seasons. And that's why, again, going back to when people were calling for Jed Hoyer's head, why? You haven't had time to see the plan yet, because it's not NFL where, more often than not, you can get 3 day one starters in the top 3 rounds of a draft and fill holes a lot quicker. Baseball doesn't work that way. So I think it's really, really, really going to be interesting just to see, like you said, kind of getting the full understanding of what the timeline is on a lot of these guys. And again, Steele and guys like Keegan are kind of that first wave. And Juice, we also got to see some good hitting today too, though. I don't know what it is about this team the last 2 days. They love hitting in the 7th inning for some reason. I'm not mad about it, but it is what it is. But today, I mean, just overall, right? We got 2 hits out of Franmil Reyes today. That's great to see after, being DFA'd, obviously, by Cleveland. Nico Horner, another 2 hits today. Obviously, the home run that really sparked the rally. McKinstry got another hit today. It's good to see him finally seem like he's kind of starting to hit. Madrigal had 2 hits today, including a big RBI that tied the game. Our friend of the program, Mike Dubs, was, where are all the Madrigal haters? And Juice and I chopped in and we're like, we're still here. But guess what? I like seeing that. Good. Show me more of that. Show me you are the 300 hitter that you've been your entire life, and that wasn't just a fluke. But it really feels like some guys are starting to settle in now, and we're seeing this team be able to put up runs. Juice, the Cubs as an organization, this is bullpen and starters, second best ERA in baseball since July 5th. You know what happens when you start to produce some kind of runs? You win a lot of games, because the top 5 are all playoff teams outside of the Cubs in that statistical category. This team has the pitching, it feels like, right? The pitch lab is clearly working. Now is some of these guys that have this kind of untapped potential, like the Madrigals, who are still a little bit of a question mark. The guys like Morel, who seems like he's starting to get right a little bit. Nelly V, let him swim. Maybe they do, Juice, start to at least make you think at the end of the season, this is the 2014 Cubs, where you're like, they're not that far away. And because that's all they need to do. You start producing some offense, this team's going to win ball games. They just won 4 out of 6 at home over this, past weekend, essentially. Like, that's all what today was. Big 7th inning rally. Good to see that they don't quit. Again, I think huge testament to David Ross and the coaching staff. These guys are ready every time they're going to the plate. It doesn't matter that they're down 2-0 and Justin Steele just went out there and gave you 6 great innings. No. They're going to come through. They're going to make it happen. Damn. Like today's game, Juice, was a lot of good things that make me excited about the foundation that they're building here. And I think we're starting to see some of that. And just as the talent continues to get fluxed in, whether it's via spending some money on the market or developing these prospects, it's going to make a really nice fucking toss salad, Juice, that's going to be a good baseball team at some point.
I love it. And I think, too, like, what I hate the most right now is, like, comparing last rebuild to this rebuild. Let's face it, when Theo came, there was nothing here. The first step of everything was to break it all down and first start with the front office. And it was, let's get my guys in the place that I need here for the next, 10, 12 years, whatever Theo's initial plan was to be here.
Yep.
It was that. It was to upgrade scouting. It was a lot of computer upgrading from what I've read. But when you looked at that ball club when he came in opposed to what Theo left Jed, it's night and day, because the Cubs actually had pieces for Jed to trade for guys like PCA, Owen Casey. Yeah. There was a return on a prospect that wasn't nearly the amount that Theo had to trade, in 2012 when he came.
Right.
So I think the hardest part is to sit and even think that they're even close to similar. They are. It's a rebuild. So a lot of the things are going to go close to the same. But there's also more on this roster that was there prior that is going to speed this along. I think that this rebuild is closer to the White Sox rebuild than it is to the Cubs full breakdown. That when you looked at the White Sox had guys like Chris Sale, like Jose Quintana to trade, to go out there and get premium guys like Yohan Moncada, like Eloy Jimenez, Dylan Cease. Those are the returns that move things faster, that make you a playoff team quicker than you think. So the Cubs realistically made that trade in 2017 for Jose Quintana that brought back Cease and Eloy Jimenez for the White Sox. The White Sox were in the playoffs in 2020. So realistically, we can look at this as maybe a 2 to 3 year rebuild, opposed to, I don't think this is near 5 or 6, because a lot of the guys that were brought back in the trade are already progressing through the system. And with a good season next year, you're looking at this as maybe this is 2.5 years if they're able to, turn the page on it. I don't know. I don't want to sit and project what next year is going to be, because the Cubs are going to have money to spend, and they're going to have positions of need that they're going to have. And who knows what, guys like Steele and Keegan do in the offseason to maybe even get better. But I agree with you. I think that the embarrassment of riches was shown a lot today in terms of Nico Horner is a pillar. He's a guy you can build. He's a guy that I've said on the show you can play, you want to play with. He's that fun Marcus Stroman on the other side of it. That is a type of guy that you want to see, you want to be around. Same with Christopher Morel in a lot of ways. He hasn't proved it as much, but Christopher Morel has that fun, kind of get out there, play together type thing. And Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ are still here. Those are guys that around the league are farly respected. Who's to say that, the report that says they're going to get one of these top name shortstops. Who's to say that, their players that are in the rotation don't take a step next year and are able to hover around 500, and maybe you're talking about buying a small piece at the trade deadline next year. A lot of this is definitely going to be, a process of what happens in the offseason, and I'm not going to sit and speculate yet until we have full reports. But it's days like today where you take a deep breath and you go, things aren't as bad as what everybody's screaming at the mountain for. It's just fine. Like, there are guys in the system like PCA who are raking. There are guys at the major league level like Nico Horner and Christopher Morel and Justin Steele and Keegan Thompson who are showing you they belong there. And the rest of it can be filled in with dollars and prospects. And baseball is an odd game, right? The teams that you think are the best in 1 year can be very average the year after. Very much so. The Washington Nationals just won the World Series a few years ago, and look at them now. They're god-awful. So
quite the fall from grace.
Yeah, so things can change in a heartbeat. And I think that if you're a Cub fan, you should be very optimistic about the future, because today it showed that there are players on this roster who are able to be built around and belong and are pillars of maybe the next great Cub team. And there's going to be guys who come up who are 10 times better than these guys too. And it's only going to make the guys who are in this right now, like Justin Steele and Keegan Thompson, that much hungrier for time. The best part in the most successful strategy to building any team around sports is to surround your franchise with tons of talent that pushes other talent, because iron sharpens iron. And at the end of the day, the Cubs are doing that right now. So it's not as bad as what people think right now, guys. Yeah, they may not buy in this next free agency. They may not. But at the end of the day, we'll look at these prospects and we'll say they're building something bigger than a quick one-off run. And Jed said it in an interview on 670 The Score. Credit to them. This isn't, hey, I want to sneak in as a wild card. It's, I want to dominate the division and make the playoffs every year and be the team that everybody looks at, like the Dodgers now in the National League, and says, we got to go through that to get anywhere. And I think that in a lot of ways, it was time. It was time for that to happen. And the Cubs core from the last one definitely kind of tripped in that. We thought we were going to get that, and we thought they were just going to get better and better and better after 2016. And there were a lot of things in their games that didn't pan out. But with that said, I think that the mistakes were made, and they're now doing things to fix that with this next group. And development is a huge thing, and we're seeing it. We saw it today. Like you said, Nico Horner was fantastic. And it's the Justin Steele's days, and it's these games where you sit and you go, yeah, things aren't that bad, buddy. They're really not.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think you summed it up perfectly there, man. Again, a seventh inning rally, good pitching overall today, just a lot of good things that you wanted to see as a Cubs fan. And we got them today, and they got a win. They win a series, and they have some momentum to take into a pretty cool game that is occurring tomorrow evening. So, Juice, I do want to quickly turn it back over to you, my friend. Any final thoughts on the series as a whole against the Nats, or just today's game before we go ahead and look forward to the Field of Dreams game?
No, good series win. I think that's fun to talk about, right? When they finally, win a series, we'll take that every time. But I'm excited for tomorrow's game, and today was good.
Yeah, it was. And like you said, man, hey, 2 series in a row. You got an opportunity now against the Reds. You kick it off with a pretty historic, monumental type event of a game in Dyersville, Iowa tomorrow. Take 2 or 3 against the Reds. Why not? Why not? Why not win 3 series in a row and continue building on something that, again, is starting to kind of set these pillars, here for the future. So, Juice, let's go ahead and take a look at this now going forward, because we got to lay out the information as always, because the Cubs and Reds do battle tomorrow at 7:15 Eastern time, 6:15 in the local Chicagoland area on Thursday, August 11th at the Field of Dreams game in Dyersville, Iowa. If you are listening on the radio and you can't catch it, it will be on WRTO 1200 and 670 The Score for the Chicagoland market. WLW 700 over in Cincinnati. And this one will be nationally televised on Fox tomorrow night. It will be left-hander Drew Smiley on the mound. He's 4-6 this season with a 3.97 ERA. And as for the Reds, it'll be Nick Lodolo. The left-hander is 3-3 with a 4.40 ERA. So not maybe the most glamorous pitching duel by any stretch of imagination, Juice, for tomorrow's game. But again, this isn't just about the game. Yes, the game itself is going to be awesome. The great jerseys that they just released this week and pretty much confirmed some suspicions from over the weekend. What it means, right, with the Field of Dreams and the corn and the atmosphere and the small stands and everything that's going to surround this event in Dyersville, Iowa. But we got to enjoy the event for what it is too, Juice. And I know that's what you're excited to talk about as well. So I want to give you the floor because, again, this is the Field of Dreams game, this thing that the MLB dreamt up for last season that, at least according to a report that I saw, they're not going to have back in Dyersville next season. So this is truly a very historic event here. If this Field of Dreams game ceases going forward, tomorrow's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I was really jealous of last year to let the Sox on Tap guys, Tony and Steve, they went to the game, and I asked the minute that I saw those guys, I asked those questions of what that was like, and I'll say this, like I just wish it wasn't so expensive, and I understand that there's limited amount of space, there's limited amount of tickets, supply and demand, I get it, but this is just something that, and I read that too, that they're not going to do it. I truly think that, like, that's this movie, like for a lot of people, is something that brings together, a father and a son for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. It's something that is a bonding moment that I think every person should be able to experience. It should be an option for them to have this game every year and to bring your dad or to have your dad bring you and have a moment with, their son, or you with your dad, and maybe that's a lasting moment for you. I think that I was always a huge fan of this movie. It's one of the very few movies, and I'll get emotional, I think it's one of the very few movies that make me cry, because it's very close to the heart in terms of your relationship with your family and having a father figure that you truly maybe have those regrets with, and I think that the movie obviously comes full circle at the end, and it's, he gets his catch with his dad. And I think that, like, those are the moments that we think about, right? Like having those moments that's what life is. And I'm very jealous of all the people who got to go last year. I'm jealous of the people who, are going this year. I think it's an amazing event. And for the fact that the MLB like drops the ball on this and they're not going to do it again, I think they're missing the boat on it. I think it's truly an event that I get more excited for this than I do the All-Star game. I'm not going to lie. The last 2 years, I've been more willing to watch this stupid regular season game, considering that the venue I think is great. It means something. It's two teams that are historic to baseball that play in it. Yep. It's all those things that make baseball baseball. It's not, you're not going to a ballpark with 7 jumbotrons, and it almost brings you back to like the small town. What is a baseball game supposed to be about? It's the sounds, it's the smells, it's the little things that we've gotten so far away from in society. It's a good metaphor for what's going on in the world today and in terms of technology. And it's totally different and a different experience for maybe fans that can't experience Wrigley Field. Like Wrigley Field, we always talk about it being the purest experience that you have. I think the hardest thing is, like, you go to all these other ballparks. It's like, yeah, you go to PNC and it's great. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite parks. I love it. But it's new, and it doesn't feel, the atmosphere there is not baseball-y. It's all the bells and whistles of what great food there is, and the ballpark and the ball game almost becomes secondary, where like this event and this venue is the purest of purists for baseball. And that's why, like, if MLB wants to market what their game is, this is their game. It's at the purest form, and those pure baseball fans will go out I'm very excited to take in this baseball game. I took in last year's, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. There were moments that I thought were even more iconic than some of the playoff moments of last year. Now, I'm not going to go and say it was better than the World Series, but I'll remember Tim Anderson's home run. I'll remember Kevin Costner walking out and doing the first pitch. Those are things I remember. And for the MLB to like take that away already after I feel like we've just gotten this awesome event, I think it's a great idea. It's almost it's the baseball league stops for a second and watches this game. Why are you taking that away? But then again, we've talked on this show so many times. Baseball just doesn't do things right. Just when you think that they should do right for the sport, it's they zag away and they do something different. And I think this is a miss. I don't know why. Maybe there's more to this story of why they're pulling it than we know that has leaked out that is in the news as of right now. But I don't agree with them getting rid of this because I think that it'll be a baseball. Like if you're a baseball guy, you're going to want to go to this game. This is like the cream of all of it to go and to have this moment. And I think that it's just a shame that they're getting rid of it. I really hate it.
Yeah, and I really love how you describe it, Juice. It's just the sense of pure, right? It's just purely baseball. That's what it is, and that's what I think it's meant to symbolize, and why baseball is, kind of, it is America's pastime, and why baseball is a sport that is still that isn't dying, right? That people say no, baseball is alive and well, and still an exciting game to play, and an exciting game to watch, and just be a fan of, and. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're incredibly used to the MLB just shitting their pants and doing the wrong thing on a very regular, occasion now. But this means so much to probably a lot of people, like you said, because of the significance of the movie that is Field of Dreams, because of just what it means to go to this game that's literally in the middle of a fucking cornfield. But like that is so unique to baseball, right? Like football is always played in a big stadium. The NBA and the NHL, obviously the NHL has ventured out and done like the stadium series and, they did the game on Lake Tahoe and, they've done some of that. But at the end of the day, right, you still got to play it in a stadium, right? Like of some capacity. Baseball can kind of get away with this because all you need is a field and they make it work. They manage it. And like this game is truly a spectacle that the rest of the baseball world stops and watches. And last year's event was so well done that everybody was like, oh, yeah, it's a no-brainer. This thing's going to be around for the foreseeable future. And whether that's going to be true or not remains to be seen. But, it's going to be really interesting. And Fly the Dub's got an interesting comment here in our comment section. She says MLB is going to ruin it. They see it as a big moneymaker by expanding maybe with hotels and et cetera. Just watch. That would be a shame. That really would be a shame. And maybe that's why they want to take it away from Dyersville. I don't know. Maybe they replace it with something else. Who knows? I really don't know. But I think that's what's going to make tomorrow's game even more enjoyable potentially is because of the thought that it could be the last one. And it feels like it's almost kind of that gone too soon kind of mentality when it comes to this event. But yeah, man. I mean, it's going to be so cool to watch tomorrow to see them walk out of the corn in the old jerseys. And, I purchased, I should have worn it tonight, actually. I'll probably wear it on tomorrow's show. But I purchased the hat that the Cubs will be wearing in the field. Like nice. That came in today. And I pulled it out. And I was like, yeah, this is sharp. Like this is going to look great tomorrow in that game. And again, they're doing it right too, in the sense of like, you're miking up two of the most entertaining players in baseball, in my opinion, and Ian Happ and Joey Votto. I think that having the two-way mics with them the whole game is going to be awesome because Joey and I talked about it on last night's show, a really good example of Cubs After Dark, or Cubs on Tap After Dark, pardon me. But, we talked about like the All-Star game and having the two-way mics and how exciting that was. And like baseball would thrive with more of that kind of content. So it's good that they're doing that for this game and having these guys talk. Like I want Ian Happ to go yard into the fucking cornfield tomorrow with the mic on, right? Like I want to hear him be like, yep, that's gone. Here it is, boys. You know what I mean? Like, I want to hear that raw emotion because bringing it back to your example, Juice, right, of that father and son moment. I think for a lot of sports fans, at least men, right, like it really did start with your dad, right? Like all of my earliest sports memories were me and my dad going to games, right? Haven't been to a game with him in a while, and I'm hoping to change that soon. But you know, it's the purest sense of the game, right?
Mhm.
Being that kid again and just enjoying baseball for what it is. And like it's gonna be truly special. I'm really, really, really excited. Outcome be damned. I don't give a fuck if the Cubs win
Yeah,
or
me
not.
neither.
Like,
I mean, I
yes, do I
prefer if
want
they
them to
win.
win? Sure, of course, right. We want them to win. Don't get it twisted here, but like that's not going to affect the enjoyability of the event that it's going to be. And this is going to be an all-day thing too. Like content's going to be starting to spew out when you're like waking up tomorrow morning, ladies and gentlemen. Like it's going to happen really, really early. But again, that's the point of it. It's supposed to be this big spectacle event. Yes, the game is obviously the focal point and kind of the climax of it all, but there's a lot that builds up to it too. That's going to be just as enjoyable throughout the day tomorrow. Like I'm going to have probably marquee on the whole day, assuming that they're going to be doing content from the ballpark, whether it's marquee or whether it's MLB Network or whomever. But just taking in what it's going to be. And here we go. Fly the Dub coming in clutch here with a quick thing. He says Frank Thomas said they're not playing it next year because of construction they have planned. So I don't know if that means just renovating the space maybe a little more to make it a little more accommodating. Because I did hear from people that did go to the game last year that it was very hard to get there and very hard to get out of there after it was all said and done. So maybe it is just to improve it enough a little bit logistically.
I hope so. I hope so
as well, because I really think
it's a great idea. It really is, and the MLB doesn't have them very often. So,
so they got to take the one that they got and run with it. Yeah,
it's maybe been the one thing in the last 10 years when I'm like, that's a good idea, MLB. You should totally do that. And if they rip that away from me, I'll be upset.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. But we can talk just a smidge about the actual game itself. Thoughts for tomorrow's game with Drew Smyly on the bump? What do you got in mind?
Well, maybe they already have the construction happening on the wall because they should maybe push that back because I think that we'll see a lot of home runs tomorrow. And it's gonna be a mess in terms of the game. I think that's just my opinion on all of it. I think we may get some high scoring, to be honest, considering that the pitchers are out there. But it'd be cool if like Drew Smyly just shoved, right? Like, first of all, how cool would it be if Field of Dreams moment we saw Drew Smyly throw a no hitter? Like that'd be pretty legit, right? That like MLB, considering the fact that like it's two teams that are both horrible. No. Like last year, let's face it, like last year was the marquee matchup of Yankees, White Sox, two teams going for the playoffs. Mm-hmm. This year, it's two teams that are in a complete rebuild for both of them. So I just think that like that for the game to be successful, it has to have like those moments that almost that first one did. So it's going to be tough for that to be recreated, considering the fact that both teams were fighting for positions in the playoffs, but that would be memorable, right? I mean, yeah. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm just hoping for a good baseball game. At the end of the day, let it be competitive and close, and let there be those moments that were so iconic from last year, that we talked about, and just MLB, just do it right. Right? If construction is what's going on over there and they're going to make it more accommodating and they're going to make it better, I'm all for them taking a year off to do that. But when they're doing that, my pain and my concern is that they go the extra step to ruin all the pureness that we just talked about. And there needs to be a part of that concept that, here we go. The area around the field, fine. But it needs to be far away where it doesn't. Like, I think part of the experience for last year was being in the middle of the cornfield. It is the purest of the pure. There's a lot of things that the MLB can do to, in the adjacent properties to make it okay, I'm fine with that. But there should still be that little part of it that is kept the same. The ballpark, the things around it should stay similarly. It should be very low tech. That's the way that this movie was shot. That's the way that this movie is portrayed. It is pure baseball, and it needs to stay that way. And I hope that if that's the case, I'm fine. Yeah, MLB, put your money into it. I understand that there's money that needs to be made, but the whole concept of the like that comment just said, the whole concept of it is the pureness of it. And the minute that big buildings are around it, and it's all corporate, it's when it's over. That's keep your product. And I think that's what makes the event cool. And if you change it any further than what that is, it's going to get sour real quick.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just for those that are listening to this when this comes out as a podcast, Fly the Deb said in the comments here, mostly the area surrounding the field, referring to the construction. But he says that still ruins the whole concept. That makes this game great. And that's right along the lines here of what Juice was also saying. Yeah, I mean, honestly, in terms of the game, man, I agree with you. It's good. I hope there's some pretty incredible moments. Like I would love to see how many corn stalks deep that Patrick Wisdom can put a ball tomorrow, right? Like that would be kind of cool, or like, Christopher Morel gets a hold of one, or like somehow we get like a triple in this game would be very unique and out there, like just baseball moments. And I think that's going to be what it is. And hopefully that's exactly the case. And I'm excited to see the big guns back in the lineup, right? Today's lineup was a little bit light. Obviously, Franmil Reyes was hitting in the three spot tonight, or today, pardon me. I'm so caught up in, that we're recording late, but Ian Happ sure was in today's game, but like there was no Wilson Contreras. Patty Wise got a day off. Like these guys are going to be in this game tomorrow, right? Like Nico, it's going to be the most true to, the best lineup out there, or at least it should be, that David Ross can present. And I hope that's truly the case, right? Like if we get this finally, hopefully just fully optimized lineup that this Cubs team can put together, it could make for a very fun baseball game tomorrow. So I agree with you. At the end of the day, yes, I want the Cubs to win, but as long as it's a good baseball game and somebody doesn't get shit pumped 9-0 or something like that, that's what ultimately is going to matter and make the event great.
And quick final thoughts on this game. I saw initially the tickets were upwards of $850 on StubHub. They've come down to $530. So it's trending down the other way. If it gets in the 300, range, I may pull the trigger. I might.
Ooh.
I might think about it. I might.
Juice. I like it. If you pull the trigger, I cannot wait to see what content that you can.
I mean, I'll go by myself. I really.
You're like, I give no fucks. I'll go chilling. I'll chill in the cornfields alone. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'll look at 8 a.m. tomorrow and see what it looks like, and if it's below any. If it's at the $350 mark, maybe I'll consider.
I will definitely be checking in with you tomorrow morning to see what happens. I might be going on myself and just looking and just being like, oh, is Juice going to do it? Oh, is Juice going to do it? And then a quick text message, is Juice going to do it? Yeah, it's going to be cool, man. And you know what? I hope for your sake it does come down a little bit, and maybe you can pull the trigger and go get to experience that, because it is truly like a once in a lifetime thing. Especially for a diehard baseball fan like you are and like we are here at Cubs on Tap. That would be pretty sweet and all of it. But my friend, I do want to turn it right back over to you again for just some final thoughts before we wrap up the show. We will have a show after the Field of Dreams game tomorrow. I don't know who's going to be on it exactly just yet, but we will have a show here at Cubs on Tap recapping the action. So my friend, floor is yours. Final thoughts before tomorrow's big event.
Yeah, good things going on in this Cubs franchise, I think. I think it's a lot better than what's being talked about around the city. I mean, we got 2 series wins in a row. PCA's raking down there. There's a lot of good things going on in the farm system. And the Cubs are about to be in a primetime marquee game that is a great television view for any fan of baseball. And, life isn't as bad as a Cub fan as it could be right now.
I completely agree. It is It is better than most people say. And I will share a quick comment here from our good buddy Jack here in the comments. He says, nothing against Smiley, but I do wish one of Stroh, Keegan, or Steele was pitching tomorrow. And I do agree. It would be electric to, have a Justin Steele or a Keegan or a Stroh show on the bump taking in this game. But you know what? Good for Drew Smiley. He lucked out and he gets to get the start in it. And again, what if? Let's play the what if game. What if he comes out and throws a no-hitter? How incredible would that be? Oh my God, that'd be probably the number one highlight of the season at the end of the year. We wouldn't even have to debate it. It would be like, oh my God, yeah, he in the Field of Dreams game of all things, he shit pumped a no-hitter. Like, yeah. That was incredible. That was a once in a lifetime type moment, right? Like, I mean, that would be pretty crazy.
I'll also go to play the Powerball after, if that's the case.
Yeah. Let's see if we can win some more money.
Yeah, right. And we'll be clipping that no-hitter thing from the show. And then syncing it up with Pat Hughes's call.
Yes, 100%. Have it like fade into the call.
Yeah.
And there it is, a no-hitter. Yeah, it is gonna be something tomorrow, Juice. But my friend, it'll be fun. There's a good chance that you and I will both be on tomorrow. There's a good chance we could have a full barn. Who knows? But nonetheless,
there's a chance I'm doing it from Iowa.
Yeah. Hey, there's a chance you're calling in for a boots on the ground report following the game. Who knows? But before we get out of here, buddy, I do want to remind everybody that Cubs on Tap is the official Cubs podcast of the On Tap Sports Network. Everybody can check out all of our great work over at ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on social media. You can follow the pod-specific accounts for us here at Cubs on Tap. We are at Cubbies on Tap, Cubbies. That's Twitter and Instagram. I am at Luce on Tap on the Bluebird app. Juice is at Juice on Tap. And you can follow all of our other great co-hosts, contributors here that do great work on the Cubs side at Joey Knows Nothing, at Teddy Freddy 270, at Brandon M. Kane, and at Bulls Guy Rob, all on Twitter. They are doing incredible work for us on all facets of Cubs coverage. You know the drill. Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks. We've got it all. Bears world's very busy. A lot of shit going on right now, as you mentioned at the very top of the show. And we've got it all covered for you here. First preseason game, too, is on Saturday already. So football's right around the corner, folks. So be sure to be tuning in with On Tap Sportsnet there. And again, Cubs fans, you know the drill. We all, unfortunately, have friends that like the Southsiders, and we all love them. But you love your friends. You want to take care of your friends. Send them over to our boys at Sox on Tap. They do a great job covering the guys at 35th and Shields. Once again, ontapsportsnet.com, at ontapsportsnet on social media, the On Tap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Juice. Series wins are cool and tough. An incredible event coming up tomorrow with the Cubs in the Field of Dreams game. It's going to be a good one. The Cubs on Tap crew will be back after the main event tomorrow evening. But Juice, as always, what do you say? We get out of here the only way we know how, at Cubs on Tap.
Ron, is this heaven?
And let's go, Cubbies.